everybody. Let's talk about something that happened yesterday that I guarantee nobody in your feed right now is connecting the dots on, at least in the right way. While U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were sitting in Doha, Qatar, trying to hold together nuclear negotiations that has a 60-day timer on it, Israel's defense minister, Katz, walked up to a microphone and told the world that Iran's supreme leader, Majabta Khamenei, in his own words, are marked for elimination. And then he said Israel has struck Iran twice already, and if necessary, they will strike a third time. Now, here's the thing. This isn't a new threat. When Majabta Khamenei was first appointed supreme leader back in March, Katz posted this on X. He said, any leader appointed by Tehran to continue leading the plan to destroy Israel, threaten the U.S. and the free world and the countries of the region, and oppress the Iranian people will be an unequivocal target for elimination in no uncertain terms. That was back in March. And then yesterday was the follow-up. Different day, same target, except now there's a peace deal in the room and tensions couldn't be higher. This is more of like elimination tension. I think they're going to have to reterm this elimination tension because Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi fired back within hours, as they do. Imagine that, Iran firing back. Here's where it gets wild. He didn't necessarily threaten Israel. He threatened the United States, basically. So on X, he wrote this, POTUS has committed the U.S. to muzzling its pets in Tel Aviv. If they ignore their master, Iran will school them. Any threat against our people and leadership will receive immediate, powerful response. Even though just yesterday, the IRGC general in charge of the Strait of Hormuz went bye-bye, and they basically denied it, wrote it off as a car crash. So muzzling its pets, the sentence right there tells you everything about how Iran sees Israel and where this deal actually stands. Because we know the supreme leader, the original supreme leader, the supreme leader not going to work here anymore, his son was also targeted, but apparently not fully taken out. There's rumors that he was on life support, rumors he has a prosthetic leg, but he is definitely in hiding right now. And we're going to talk about why, where he's likely hiding, and how this would go down if strikes actually occur on him again. Because probably he's sitting there like, I haven't been able to say that Israel is going to be eliminated or the U.S. is going to be eliminated. I haven't been able to say that in months, and it's making me very nervous. And then we're also going to do a global roundup section. We'll cover hot topics going on right now. Russia and Kyiv exchanging massive drone swarms. So we're going to cover that about 3/4 of the way through the video. But basically, Iran's supreme leader hasn't been seen in 4 months. Israel just announced today that they might just do a little check-in or, send a follow-up email campaign, an abandoned cart email. Hey, we saw that you abandoned your cart. How you been? So remember, in a fighter jet cockpit, there's no room for mistakes. You can't have that 2 p.m. energy crash, no brain fog, no hesitation. Every decision matters, every second counts. Why in 24 hours? Because the sequencing here matters. On July 1st, U.S. envoy Witkoff and Kushner land in Doha and meet with Qatar's Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani. Wow, he's got a lot of names. I'm pretty sure the more names you have, the more important you are. So this guy's definitely important. But they met to stabilize the June 17th MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding that gave Iran and the U.S. 60 days to negotiate a permanent end to the war. Iran's negotiators are in the same city talking to Qatari and Pakistani mediators through a relay because Tehran won't sit across from Washington directly. They're like, we're going to do a staring contest. The first to look away has to make concessions with your nuclear program. But the technical talks are focused on frozen assets and Hormuz shipping access. Just in the last 24 hours, we've seen about 35 ships go through the Strait of Hormuz. One did run aground. Apparently it wasn't hit by anything, but it actually ran aground. So it shows there's some confusion in the different shipping lanes. The normal amount would be about 110 ships per day. That was pre-conflict. So 35 ain't bad, as they say, but it's not 110. Looks like it's going to continually build up, and that's the goal, to get it back to that 110 number. Trump told reporters at Joint Base Andrews that the talks were going very well and that Iran had come a long way. And then on the same day, at a memorial ceremony for Israeli soldiers lost in the 2006 Lebanon War, Israeli Defense Minister Katz publicly declared Majabta Khamenei is marked for elimination, stated Israel has already struck Iran twice, and said a third strike is on the table if necessary. Iran's foreign minister responded within hours with the muzzle your pets post that we talked about earlier. No one in Washington publicly addressed the Katz statement, so two things are running simultaneously: a deal being stitched together in Qatar and a public target designation being issued against the man that the deal kind of depends on, by an ally that the deal requires Washington to restrain. So the U.S. is trying to hold a deal together. Israel just told the new Ayatollah he may want to contact Allstate and up his life insurance plan. To understand what that threat actually means operationally, you need to know who Majabta Khamenei is, and more importantly, where he is. So here's something the news cycle isn't telling you. Majabta Khamenei has been the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran since March 2026, obviously when his father was eliminated. He's supposedly the most powerful person in Iranian leadership right now, even though we've seen fractures and there's rumors that actual IRGC hardliners are really in control of the country. His first statement as supreme leader was read aloud by a television presenter. No video, no audio, no image of the man himself. Iranian state media has been running archival footage, and this isn't a joke, AI-generated images of their own supreme leader because they don't have current footage to show. The Iranian public hasn't seen their leader in over 4 months. But now here's the intelligence picture, and this is kind of the story itself. American and Israeli security officials told the New York Times that Majabta Khamenei was wounded, cut off, and unresponsive to communications after the February 28th strike that took out his father. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard told the House Intelligence Committee directly that Majabta Khamenei was very seriously wounded and that the decision-making process within Iranian leadership is, quote, unclear. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, said his injury was actively delaying peace talks. And then Iran's own ambassador to Cyprus told The Guardian that Majabta suffered injuries to his legs, arms, and hands in the same strike that took out his father. More recent reporting has suggested complications, potentially including a prosthetic leg and multiple operations. But what's Iran's official line? An aide claimed it was only an ankle issue. It's only a flesh wound, that one meme. Yeah, it's only a flesh wound and a small crack behind his ear. So they're basically trying to minimize, trying to say, oh, no big deal, nothing to see here, just like what they did with the Iranian naval general that was eliminated yesterday. Iran state media says he's in perfect health and in control of everything. The evidence for that claim, 0 public appearances, 0 video, 0 audio, and 4 months of statements delivered by news anchors on his behalf. So with the senior IRGC generals who were eliminated alongside his father, Iran's armed forces have shifted to what analysts are calling a mosaic defense, devolving battlefield authority down to local commanders because there's no longer a centralized command structure confident enough to run it from the top. The man who is supposedly making decisions that could determine whether this war resumes is running his government through a secret courier network because he's too afraid to use a telephone. Yeah, that's how wild it gets. So according to American officials, Majabta is living in an underground bunker at a heavily protected, undisclosed site somewhere inside Iran. One U.S. official described watching Iranian leadership try to coordinate as almost like watching a sitcom. They're completely exasperated. That was an exact quote from an unnamed official. Iran's supreme leader is running the country through blindfolded couriers in a tunnel, not exactly sitting on your golden crapper in your golden palace anymore, are we, bud? But now here's where this becomes the most dangerous story on the board, because Israel didn't just issue a threat, they've actually built a machine to execute it, and that machine is up and running right now. This is the section that makes this a Max Afterburner video and not a CNN segment. You're not going to hear this in the legacy media. So to understand what Israel's threat actually means operationally, you have to understand exactly how they located and neutralized Ali Khamenei, his father, because the same architecture is rebuilding right now, pointed at the sun. February 28, 2026, opening day of Operation Epic Fury, the U.S. and Israel had planned to open the war at night, under the cover of darkness. They delayed, not because they weren't ready, because in the final hours before the strike window, likely the CIA picked up something they couldn't walk away from. Intelligence that Ali Khamenei would be at his residential compound in central Tehran that Saturday morning. Senior military and civilian leadership were converging on the same location at the same time. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, described it publicly afterward. This was a daylight strike based on a trigger event conducted by the Israeli Defense Forces, enabled by the U.S. intelligence community. That trigger event was years in the making, and here's how they built it. The Mossad had hacked into Tehran's extensive traffic camera network, the same system Iran uses to track protesters and regime opponents, the same system they used to murder their own people. Israel flipped it against the IRGC and against the regime. They were using Iran's own surveillance apparatus against its own leadership. An Israeli intelligence official told the Financial Times, "We knew Tehran like we know Jerusalem. And when you know a place as well as you know the streets you grew up on, you notice a single thing that's out of place. Enter IDF Unit 8200 8200, the Signals Intelligence and Cyber Unit that is arguably the most capable tactical SIGINT, which means Signals Intelligence for your acronym lovers. They're that organization and they're the best at it on the planet. They ran AI tools and pattern recognition algorithms through mountains of data on Iranian leadership movements. They built a pattern of life on Khamenei, his travel habits, his security routines, the timing of his meetings, the times when he argues to his girlfriend about his wife. She's just so demanding. Doesn't she know I'm living in a bunker at all times? Why does she have to keep giving me these honey to-do lists? But when the data showed a high probability of converging on February 28th at the compound in central Tehran, a CIA human resource likely provided the final confirmation. The strike went at daylight. Ali Khamenei was taken out at a meeting he believed was completely secure. He hadn't used the deepest bunkers because he thought the strike would come at night. Maxafterburner Khamenei knows exactly how his father was found, which is why the security posture around him is the most extreme in the Islamic Republic's history. Officials summoned to meet him are transported in blackened out vehicles. For the final leg of the journey, it's said that they go into a tunnel system blindfolded, and the protocol is designed so that no single official can reconstruct his location from their own travel. The underground bunker system underneath Tehran stretches 5 kilometers of tunnels running under schools, medical centers, mosques, residential neighborhoods. Remember, the IRGC, they're pros at putting their headquarters underneath schools, museums, universities. That's what they do. Any strike on the tunnel system requires collateral damage calculations that complicate Western decisions to fire because of damage to civilians. The architecture of the bunker is the architecture of deterrence. They want to use their people as human shields, and that's exactly what you've done. But here's how you would actually target him. So let's talk about it just from a hypothetical strategic perspective. You don't find a hidden man, you find the network around him, and you just start to unpiece that. This is how Osama bin Laden was found, and this is how Unit 8200 uses their intelligence to flag anything that's off. Like that quote from Israel saying, we noticed the smallest thing out of place, and this is exactly what they do. Traffic cameras, different cameras that the IRGC uses to track their people are now being turned against them, and this is the best way to put these mullahs in their place. And that brings us to the global roundup section, my friends. So while the whole world is watching Iran, Russia launched one of the largest overnight strike packages of the year against Kyiv. So they're upping the pressure. They use KH-101 cruise missiles, Zyklon hypersonic missiles, and a massive wave of jet-propelled UAVs, with fires confirmed at industrial zones in northern Kyiv and at the Central Design Bureau of Valve Machine Building Plants. So as you can see, Russia's striking plants in Ukraine, Ukraine's striking plants in Russia. But it looks like in Crimea, the power outages have been confirmed, and it's massive. And now Crimea is basically being cut off from the rest of Russia, which is making Russia very, very nervous. And that brings us to the 40 chess strategic analysis section, my friends. So Iran signed the MOU, and the framework requires Iran to halt uranium enrichment, surrender its stockpile, cap missile ranges, and accept a defined Hormuz arrangement. In exchange, sanctions relief, unfrozen assets, up to $25 billion, and the ability to sell oil again. But here's what Iran's regime actually wants. They want to close the deal before the insurgency in the West escalates, because right now they're getting attacked by the Kurds. Other rebels are starting to pop up in Iran. Before the resistance cells in Tehran get loud enough to matter, they want to seal this deal. And before a supreme leader who hasn't been seen in 4 months becomes a credibility problem that even state media can't manage against their own people. They want to get the deal signed. They want to gaslight their people. They want to convince them that Maxafterburner Khamenei is still in power before anyone else rises up in Iran, especially while they're getting attacked on their western front. What do you think happens? Do you think we see some massive strike go in again against Maxafterburner Khamenei? Do you think hostilities will kick back off? Would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there pretty much every day. And head over to maxafterburnerenergy.com. Join our mailing list so you never miss any of our updates on what's going on around the globe. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off. I could see like a Supreme Leader Fantasy Football League. They're like, pick one, Maxafterburner Khamenei, Supreme Leader of Iran, strong upside, limited film available. We haven't really seen him in a while. He hasn't really practiced publicly since March. Medical reports are conflicting. Team physicians say just a small crack behind his ear, but Western scouts are saying a prosthetic. Question marks at mobility. Can he actually move around? But Israel says keep your eye on him during the next draft because he could go very, very early.